Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, the elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, to the men on the highways and the byways that are pushing out this word in truth and sincerity, and to the remnant men, women, and children of the elect. To you all I say Shalom. My name is Ahmawan, Ahyash, and I'm back with another lesson through the power and the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahawashi. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. And as you can see on the screen, Esau, Edom, Babylon the Great. He, this place is leaders. The spirit of it is unraveling. This is an update to the war in Iran, and as we can see, things aren't going as planned. Right. And I wanted to jump into a little bit of that and, kind of give an update, because this is ultimately a World War III update, because we know these wars, these conflicts are going to lead to the Third World War, as these other nations who have interest in this region, what these other countries, their interest there will draw these other nations out into the Third World War, as the scriptures say in Joel the 3rd chapter, how the Lord will gather these nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? So again, this is all just leading up to it, all right? And I wanted to touch on what's going on in America, what's going on in Babylon, what's going on with this current administration, and how things are going, man. The internet is actually on fire. I mean, if you're paying attention to the right, if your algorithm is set to these global events, right, you see that the internet is on fire concerning this issue, all right, this matter that's at hand. So this article is from foxnews.com. This was published today, Monday, March 16th. It says Trump warns NATO of very bad future if allies don't help secure the Strait of Hormuz, right? It says Trump warns NATO of very bad future if allies don't help secure the Strait of Hormuz. So the thing is, with the Strait, obviously Iran has basically control of that strait, and they close it off. They close it off to America and its allies, and they're not allowing certain ships and certain products and commodities to get through, which will ultimately cripple and have a major effect on these countries and their economies and their business, which is a part of war, right? It's all part of war, right? You strike us, and we have our ways to strike you back, and this is all part of it. And you can tell just by the headline of this article, Trump warns the NATO of very bad future if the allies don't help. Now, why would they need to help? If this war was going as you're saying it's going, where you're defeating the enemy, why would they need to help, right? If you were being honest about the current status of this war and the current status of Iran and the state of Israel and all these different things, why would you need help, right? It just doesn't add up. So it says here, President Donald Trump sent his clearest warning yet to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, on Sunday: stand with the U.S. for defense of the Strait of Hormuz or face a very bad future. It's only appropriate that people who are the beneficiaries of the strait will help to make sure that nothing bad happens here, Trump told the Financial Times in an interview Sunday. If there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it will be very bad for the future of NATO. Trump has his way of threatening different nations, threatening different governments with his false sense of his braggadocious spirit that he has, that pride that he has on him. But the truth of the matter is, these nations aren't afraid, right? the spirit of war is in the end, is in the air, and these nations are, that stronghold that America, Babylon the Great has had on the world and on NATO for generations, and for it's dying. It's dying. They see the dollar collapsing. They see the government of the United States. They see who's at the head of it. They see the bullying tactics. They see how America has gone into certain nations and have destabilized them and have done a very, very, very poor job of being the global power, setting the right standard, and these nations are done. And that's just the truth behind it. It says here, Trump echoed those remarks in press gaggle aboard Air Force One on Sunday night, returning to Washington, D.C. from a weekend at Mar-a-Lago, saying it would be very nice to have other countries help that with us. Police, Slakia. It says it would be nice to have other countries police that with us, and we'll help. We'll work militarily, and that's kind of what the United States always has to offer, right? Whenever they want to get something out of a country, they create these alliances, and as an exchange of military protection for your resources, or whatever the case, right? Because, and this is why the United States spends trillions of dollars on their military, so that they have that, so they have the ability to go in and make these deals with other nations. Say, look, at the end of the day, we're the most powerful nation. We have the most powerful military. We can protect you. We can keep you safe in exchange for your commodities and your resources. So all of these things are coming out, and it's putting a black eye, literally and figuratively on these nations, because the black eye that Iran has given to the United States and Israel, literally and figurative, right? Because Israel and the United States, they weren't prepared for the response that Iran has given over these past couple of weeks since this war started. Okay, they have responded very mightily with their military, and things are not going as planned. So this is why Trump is coming out and saying, look, we need help. He's saying it without necessarily, this is a cry for help. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, again, this is all roads are leading to, as far as war is concerned, all roads are leading to World War III. Because you can only imagine that the pride that's on this devil, he's not going to stop until there's either some sort of surrender from Iran, or until one of the two is completely destroyed. And that's what World War III is going to be about. It's the war to end all wars. All right. So that's that. Let me get let me see. Was this the one? It says Trump. This is from Reuters.com. It says Trump warns NATO, presses China to help reopen Strait. So he's pressing China to reopen the Strait. All right. This is basically the same of what I read. He's pressing these different nations. Another one here says, this one made me laugh. This is from Newsweek. It says countries reject Trump's straight demand, saying we did not start this war. That's right, man. These countries are like, look, man, we ain't start this shit. We ain't start this. Slack, give me 1 second. I am at the job right now, so I just need to. Yeah, so let me read that one more time. It says countries reject Trump's straight demand, saying we did not start the war. It says President Donald Trump has called on several countries to send ships to help unblock the Strait of Hormuz, a demand rejected thus far by Germany, China, Japan, Australia, and met with reluctance by other traditional U.S. allies. So these countries are going, look, man, y'all went in on your own accord. Y'all had your own plans. You went in with Israel to do whatever BS that y'all decided to do. You know what I mean? Didn't understand the full blunt or the full force of the ramifications and the consequences that came with it. Now you're on your own. All right? You want to roll around the world as the big bad bully and flex your military might and try to act like, you know, you're untouchable. Well, this is the result. This is the consequences that you have to face because clearly you weren't prepared. And these other nations, like, look, we don't want to be involved in no wars. We don't want to be involved in no wars. You know, you started it. Now you got to finish it. All right. It says on Saturday, Trump on social media, hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated, right? So, again, the delusion that's on, you know, the president, and I don't even think it's real delusion. I just think it's a matter of what he puts out there, right? You know, obviously, they put Iran as their Iran out there, and they are classified as the #1 terrorist state in the world, right? They lie about why the war started, why they going in, claiming some sort of regime change. They lie about the state and the status of the war, claiming that, you know, Iran is being decapitated, and, you know, it's all going right. But then again, you asking for help for this, that, and the third. It's just like, you know, none of the stuff is, you know, Esau's being made bare at the end of the day, okay? And Babylon's being thrown down, and these nations see it, and this is an opportunity to say, hey, you're on your own. You know what I'm saying? In order for you to survive, speaking of America, in order for America to survive, these other nations are seeing, look, the dollar's collapsing. They're in bed with Israel, which doesn't have the United States' best interests. Israel's drawing them out into these wars and weakening their status globally and their reputation. Okay? And these other nations are sitting back going, hey, that's you made your bed, you got to lay in it. You know? And good. It says he also told the Financial Times that countries which received oil through the strait should help make sure that nothing bad happens there after Iran blocked the waterway and fighting back against the United States and Israeli strikes. Okay. Let me just read this last part. It says Trump warned that if those countries rejected his demands, it would be a very bad future of NATO, which I read in the other article. It says, but on Monday, many in the coalition said no. This is not our war. We have not started it, said Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, who added, what does Trump expect from a few European frigates that the powerful U.S. Navy cannot do? You see? And that's, again, I think that for me it sounds like mockery. You know, you're the powerful United States Navy. What do you want us to do? Won't you just go in with your powerful U.S. Navy with all your money that you spend and your resources and your weapons and all that, and go take it? Right? We don't want no problems here. This is not ours. Right? You're not going to drag us into a war that we didn't start and we have no interest in being a part of. Period. Right? And a lot of these NATO nations saying, yeah, this is an alliance, but hey, man, You unjustifiably going in to these nations and destroying them and starting shit. But we're gonna sit this we're gonna sit this one out. Hey man, we cannot wait for Babylon to be destroyed. We're watching it happen in front of our eyes. It's a beautiful thing to witness, and I'm thankful to Yahawashi that prophecy is coming to pass right in front of our eyes. We're literally watching the end of this hegemony take place, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Isaiah 47:1, it says, "Come down." You see how the caption says, "Lament for Babylon," right? Come down and sit in dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Okay, and that's how these nations are seeing America. They're seeing America as, that nation who, look, you're no longer untouchable. Okay, there's chips in your armor. There's a lot of chinks in your armor. All right, and it's being exposed. It's being exposed. In the NLT, it says, prediction of Babylon's fall. It says, "Come down, virgin daughter of Babylon, and sit in the dust, for your days of sitting on the throne have ended." Okay, for your days of sitting on the throne has ended. So the end of Esau's rulership and sitting on the throne is over. You know what I mean? Scriptures say Esau is the end of the world, but Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. This man's kingdom is fallen. Okay, the stronghold that he's had on the world, his influence, his impact, it's over. It says, "For your days of sitting on the throne have ended, O daughter of Babylonia. Never again will you be the lovely princess, tender and delicate. Never again will America be that untouchable land, the land of milk and honey, the land of opportunity." People are going to be, because America is being made bare and being stripped of that reputation. Okay, everything is going to collapse with it. We see the state of the economy. We see the spirit of this place. The mirth is gone. This current administration is an absolute joke and a mockery to the world. People are laughing at America, right? And it's all falling on its head, which is a beautiful thing. Again, this represents the spirit of prophecies that are happening, with America. But Babylon represents Esau's downfall, and it represents our salvation. It represents the end of these curses. It represents the end of our struggle here, and we know the Lord is going to, flip these curses around on these heathens, and they're going to have to suffer. They're going to have to drink of that cup, and that's what we're waiting for. Verse 2 says, "Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers." I gotta read it in the NLT. "Take heavy millstones and grind flour. Remove your veil and strip off your robe. Expose yourself to public view." All right, and everything that America has been known for, because a lot of people in this country, these stupid ass Americans, think that America is on the up and up, that they have some sort of moral high, they're on some sort of moral high ground, but that's just not the case. This country was established on bloodshed. It was established on rape, robbery, and murder. Okay, and confusion, and lies, and theft, and that's being uncovered. Okay, it's being uncovered to your shame. All right, it says, "Remove your veil and strip off your robe. Expose yourself to public view." When you have the ability to condition people, and you have propaganda as your vehicle, as your machine, to keep people uninformed or misinformed, you're able to your empire is able to continue on in the way that it has here in America, but at some point it comes crashing down. And that's what just the Lord has prepared for America, for Babylon the Great, for Esau. He's being uncovered. All right. Verse 3 says in the KJV, "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yeah, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." Right? Because Yahawashi is going to come in a way where it's going to be nothing but spiritual power. All right. Yahawashi, the angels, They're coming with a force for vengeance, okay, to deliver the elect and take the crowns off the kings of these nations. All right. It says, well, that was it on that. There was another thing that I had something from X. Oh, here it goes. It says, man, this place is done. This is from X, Daily Beast. President Donald Trump has spent Sunday calling for the death penalty for reporters covering his war in Iran in a negative manner, right? So if you that dead, this is desperation, man. Let me click on the actual article. Yep, this is from the Daily Beast. Yep, Trump demands death penalty for reporters in unhinged war rant, and that's what it is. It's a rant at this point. You gotta think. How much truth are you gonna get from the so-called white man at this point? How much honesty? How much truth? How much? This man is not forthcoming. He. This is what he does. He's a liar. He's a deceiver, right? He's a thief. He's a murderer. He's a robber. Okay. What can you expect from someone with such a checkered past, such a brutal history? He has a brutal history, and what can you expect from someone like this? Right. It says Donald Trump says reporters who cover his war in Iran in a negative manner should face charges of treason, a crime punishable by death. The 79-year-old president posted a nearly 400-word truth social rant on Sunday, slamming Iran for feeding the very appreciative fake news media in the U.S. and even resorting to AI to spread false information. The president claimed Iran had circulated images of phony kamikaze boats shooting at various ships at sea, and that while they looked wonderful, powerful, and vicious, he added, these boats don't exist. So whatever, it doesn't matter at this point, because he's losing the narrative. And that's something that is Esau's not used to. He's not used to losing the narrative. All right, he's always able to shape the narrative and shift the narrative and pivot. When things are starting to get too close to the actual truth, he pivots. All right, but again, the Lord has the spirit to where Esau's being covered. He's being made bare. So Esau, you can't. There's only so much control that you can have. Okay, when it's the will of Yahawah for you to be uncovered and for your empire to fall, that's just what it is. The pride that's on this man is next level, man. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 3. It says, the pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high. So the pride of Esau's heart has deceived him, but all of this pride that he's had, so he went into Iran with a certain level of pride and wasn't able to measure Iran's response, and they were met with some real force. So now they got to backtrack, and now they got to adjust. They got to replan, restructure, recoordinate, and figure out what the next move is. Okay, that's an example of Esau's pride. Okay, the pride of his heart deceiving him. Okay, because you must have thought that you was just gonna go in there and they was gonna lay down like a Venezuela. But Iran said, you not another thing coming. You done killed our supreme leader, the Ayatollah. You done killed him. You done killed one of our most popular, influential generals a few years ago. Enough is enough with you. Now it's all smoke. Now it's up from here. And that's just what it is, man. And it's a beautiful thing to behold. It's a beautiful thing to witness. Yahweh, the will of Yahawah is being done, and we're just very, very grateful. I'm gonna close out with it. This is Revelation 17, because again, Esau's whole his thing is to Trump warns NATO of very bad future if allies don't help secure Strait of Hormuz, right? So he's looking for assistance from those allied NATO nations. But Revelation 17, verse 16 says And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, which is NATO and the EU, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, right? So these nations aren't just quick to jump up and go help. Okay, again, you started this war, you gonna have to finish it. What do they say? These countries reject the straight demands, saying we did not start this war. Countries like, man, you on your own with that. We ain't fucking with them Iranians, man. You go ahead and handle your business. All right. It says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." Because these NATO nations will ultimately turn on America, turn on Babylon the Great. Okay, and it's gonna culminate to the Third World War. But we're seeing the pride of this man on display. We see his nakedness being uncovered, and ultimately we see the end. Okay, the end of America, the end of Babylon the Great. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you were edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, the elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.